There we are, sir. We are live. Can you hear
Hi.
me well?
Yes.
All right. So on LinkedIn, there's a little bit of a lag, but we don't have to look at that. So yeah, I think the live stream is about 15 seconds behind, but that's not of interest to the viewers. So welcome everyone tuning in. This is sort of a ask me anything about the Web3 Accelerator program by Startup Wise Guys, which I'm representing in partnership for both program and the investment part of 3 Capital. So in that sense, welcome Pedro. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Maybe we should start off with a round of introductions. So I'm Gilles. As I said, I represent Startup Wise Guys. I am the, let's say, the Web3 guy at Wise Guys. That means that, so Startup Wise Guys is a B2B startup accelerator coupled with an investment fund. So we invest in early stage B2B startups, and then we also take these startups into an accelerator program of about 4 months, where we make sure that they where we couple basically the investment to growth goals, and we make sure that the founders are on the right track, and that it is the start of a long-term good relationship between us as investors and accelerators, and also a broader founder community, the growth goals of the startup afterwards. This Startup Wise Guys has done one Web3 program so far. We did a lot of other verticals as well, but we are relatively new to the Web3 vertical. Our first Web3 program was last year, started end of December. We had 5 startups graduating in March, and this will be the second program. Because we are pretty new to this vertical, we partner with Pedro's firm, 3 Capital, who have a lot of they're Web3 veterans with a lot of insight and knowledge of the vertical. But at this point, I will pass on the word to you, sir.
Thank you so much for the kind words, and thanks everybody for the time that you're taking out of your days to listen to this. So, my name is Pedro. I'm with 3 Capital. I'm a general partner there. What is 3 Capital? Which is the obvious question. We're actually a fund manager, not a VC fund per se, but we're actually a fund manager, which actually allows us to have different types of funds. One of them being a venture capital fund that invests only in Web3. We're quite an improbable collection of people in terms of how we look at things and our diverse backgrounds and all of that. But we share one common thing, which is a deep love and enthusiasm for this space. We're big believers in Web3 and how it's going to change and transform the world. We really like it. We want to be a part of it. And we also want to be close to people that want to do their little bit of universe denting activities and transform the way that people live. So, as big believers in the space, I mean, there was no other thing that we could do except to go ahead with the first cohort, which went quite well, and we're quite happy with it. And now we're going to go and pursue the second, and hopefully you're going to ask us questions about this second one, and we'll hopefully see you throughout the screening process, and you'll end up in the cohort itself.
So if you can ask us any questions you have about the program, about the investment terms we offer, but also generally about scaling and fundraising your Web3 startup, or the general state of Web3, whatever you think is interesting to ask us, please leave your comments. Please leave your question in the comments, and then we will tend to them. As we wait for the first questions to come in, we already have a couple of questions to discuss from founders that have been emailing us these questions in the last couple of weeks, and I think they are of general interest. So, maybe the first question about the program itself is what sort of startups are we looking for, and if we can list some parameters.
Should I take it first, or do you want to?
If you want, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. That one's a simple one. So we're looking for businesses. Sometimes people forget that a startup is a business in itself, but we're looking for businesses, and especially in the B2B area, business to business. Why is that? B2C, business to consumer, is pretty much a very capital intensive business, and it's not exactly our focus. It's very difficult. If you think as a startup founder that you're going to go viral just like that, you wake up one day and your stuff's going to go viral, it's probably not going to happen. And there's a ton of knowledge and science and money behind things. Okay. And it usually costs a lot to do stuff for the masses. We'd rather go for the business to business approach, which is like a sniper approach. You identify a problem that you want to solve. There's sort of a gap in the market. You're going to dive into that. You're going to focus into solving that thing. That thing has people which are really worried about it, hopefully businesses. They behave according to a certain set of principles or rules which are a little bit more predictable, and that allows you to increase your chances of being successful by doing this type of thing. So it's mainly B2B, and tackling real world problems and real stuff that needs to happen.
What about stage?
We're not very peculiar in these things. I mean, if you've dreamt of something, and if you've done nothing, you still have a little bit of work to do before you get to us. But hopefully you will have some sort of product market fit already achieved, or some sort of validation, and have something which is hopefully which is a precursor to putting your business on top of that basis and then scaling it from there. But it could be very early stage.
Yeah, in terms of if you want to make it specific, a founder was earlier DMing me with a question like, "Hey, we've been working on a product. We are technically pre-revenue, but we have a lot of customers on the wait list. We have a lot of interesting discussions with them, and they're also customers with a lot of buying power." So, and then his question was like, "Is the fact that we are pre-revenue, is this at once a qualifier that would disqualify us from the application process?" And the answer that I gave him, and you can maybe speak a little bit to this with you if you think that was a good answer, is yes, we are typically looking for startups with some early traction. So it's early signs of product market fit. So if you have a bunch of customers, that's definitely a plus, because that shows us, okay, there's people willing to pay in this, and there's no better sign of product market fit than a paying customer. However, these are soft criteria. These are not hard criteria. If you're doing something very interesting, if you really like your product demo, and if you have a good feeling about your capacity to execute in the market as a founder, basically what I'm saying is like, we are going to evaluate every application case by case, and assess the idea on the merit of the entire context, and not just like check off a bunch of criteria and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, all in favor of that. This is not like ticking the boxes. You have revenue, yes, no, you're done. If you don't, uh, please do come to us, because there's stuff that's even more valuable than revenue. Imagine that you show up with something and say, well, guess what? I've got here 5 letters of intent from Fortune 500 companies, which are really interested in this thing, and now we need A, B, and C in order to actually complete the product and sell to them. That's a really nice validation from the market. So it is not hard criteria, but we do want to see a little bit of traction, and something which has both feet on the ground.
What are there some things that startups can do to increase the, let's say, to increase the chances of being accepted based on, in terms of their application? Something that they need to pay particular attention to?
You want to go first on this one?
Well, I would say like just so if you go to the application, and I will post a link in the comments. Actually, I will do it right now. It's kind of something I forgot. Um, you'll see that it's a very extensive process, like very extensive process. It will take you about 15 to 30 minutes. So we ask from everything to from background about the founders to your traction to describing your solution in detail, also to upload some sort of pitch deck. And I would just ask you to, yeah, take the thing very seriously, and also make it as some kind of an exercise for yourself, because this is something you will have to do a bunch of times if you're going to be fundraising. Um, and the other thing is also, well, to be very honest and proactively transparent about all the sides of your business, the traction that you have. Because yeah, if there is any, so the way the process goes from there, this is also maybe good to address, is once you submit the application, we will review your application, and we will try to invite you as quickly as we can to a product demo, which means that we will invite you to, it's basically a Zoom call where you will be pitching your startup with a bunch of 5 to 10 other startups that are in the application process, and we will ask you to provide us with a 2 to 3 minute demo of your product. So yeah, this is also to say, once you submit the application, you will be invited quite quickly and you will be pitching to us very quickly. So you will get feedback quickly, and you know pretty quickly if you have a good shot of advancing into the process and being considered for investment in the program. But it is also to say that if you, so to say, aren't super honest, or you kind of try to make things look prettier than they are in your application, we will find out pretty quickly, and this is not in your best interest. Going back also to, okay, what sort of startup should apply, and does it really matter the stage you are on if maybe you're too early? The only thing I can say to a founder on that end is, like, even if you think you are too early, you have nothing to lose by filling in the application. Once you submit the application, you will be in our database, you will be invited into the product demo, and you will get feedback from people, from investors, from people who have been doing this professionally, have been helping in accelerating startups professionally. And even if you do not end up making it into the program, you are still in your database. You have at this point established a personal connection with us, and you are always at that point. Once you're in our database, you can keep updating us with any sort of progress that you have made, and there's always future opportunities on the horizon from then going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I can pile a little bit on top of that. So the first thing that I would tell you is the exercise is valuable to you, regardless of you go ahead or don't go ahead. Okay, so if you want to run your stuff through the exercise of actually putting together the application, I can tell you that you're gonna come out at the end a richer person than what you got in the first place. What I would tell you is be serious and understand what you're doing. Okay, um, serious, obviously. I mean, don't go and paint the thing in a different color, which is not. We understand that businesses are difficult to put together and to ramp up. There's a ton of problems. If you don't have problems, then you're not a startup, and probably you're not even a business. That's what I would tell you. So problems are everywhere. What interests us mostly is your capacity to deal and solve the stuff that life throws at you. Okay, that's a big one, and understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I mean, if you come up with a crazy idea of putting another moon in the sky, I mean, unless there's a serious reason for that and there's utility in that and value for people that are actually willing to pay for that type of thing, just putting up the moon, another moon in the sky, is not a valid reason for this to be a decent business. And you will need to earn money with this business. So stuff like they will come when you refer to customers, or we'll figure it out later. It's not a good indication that you understand what you're doing.
So another question that we often get is, what is the investment deal complicit into participating into the program? What does it look like? So the short version of that is the investment that you would get if you are accepted into the program is that of 150K convertible. Is that correct, Pedro?
Typically, it's a convertible, yeah.
And then, yeah, based on in terms of like what that means in terms of the ownership and that kind of stuff, it depends on the valuation and the details that we agree on with you. So this is totally up for negotiation, just to be clear. 35 of that 150K is meant to be a program cost, so that's meant to be paid back to us. And then there is also after the program, and the program is going to run in between 3 or 4 months, is what you should have in mind. There is a possibility for a 300K follow-on. So what does it mean, follow-on? This is a question we often get, because the details that I just spelled out here, they are also clearly readable on the landing page, which you can visit from the link I posted in the comments. What does follow-on mean? It means that once we start the program with you, we agreed on a couple of goals for the program to achieve in terms of traction, in terms of sales, in terms of product. And if we feel good about your ability to execute in the market throughout the program, then there is a good opportunity. Then there's a good case for a follow-on investment. Anything to add from your end, Pedro, or did I cover?
I mean, this is the start of the thing. There's not really a lot of things which are set in stone. We do invest in startups with different valuations in each batch. It's only fair. It depends on where you are on the process. If you're more ahead or a little bit behind. So there's a couple of moving parts in there that can be adjusted. But the first investment, the 150K, and the price of the program, which by the way we think is cheap for what you guys are getting. This is a hard work program. I think you can address that as well, Jill. This is not something that you should take like, yeah, let's do this program and I'll get rid of it in like 20 minutes a day and then I'm done and move on with the rest of the stuff. We expect commitment to this. This is not something that somebody dreamt last night and it's going to stick to you. It's something that's well thought. It's pretty much a 360 view of stuff and tools that you will need to run your business properly. You always end up learning something in this type of thing. I know because I do, and I'm always extremely interested in terms of the contributions of the people that keep coming in and lecturing the modules and all of that. So it's a really nice program. That is meant to provide you the right tools to accelerate quickly on top of what you already bring to the table when you start. And then there's a couple of moving parts. We're all people that have common sense, and we can usually accommodate stuff.
Maybe this is a good segue into a question that we also often get, which is, okay, like if you go onto the landing page, you will see kind of what the program consists of, but logistically, how does it work? How should I picture being a part of that program, participating in it as a founder? So logistically, this program, it's a hybrid program, meaning that most of it takes place online. So we use a digital infrastructure to communicate and to run workshops and sessions together. When I say sessions, there's a couple formats of sessions that we have. We have collective learning sessions, which you can think of as workshops. So we invite experts in all sorts of expertises. So typically, like we have 4 tracks within the program, which is company building. So this is everything related to hiring, scaling a team, building a culture. We have pitching. So Startup Wise Guys is very known for being very good at teaching you how to pitch, which is then again also leans into the fundraising track. So we teach you how to fundraise, how to talk to investors, how to report to investors, how to meet with investors. We introduce you to investors. We leverage our investor network. So those are already 3 tracks. And then we have sales and marketing, mostly B2B sales. And we're also very good at designing your growth trajectory and modeling what sort of acquisition retention model you should probably have based on what your product is, what market you are in, and how much the average customer pays you, in a way that it is compoundable, so to say, so that you can profit from every single customer and reinvest it in the most efficient, to allocate every euro of profit into a way that fuels your growth in a further way, so you can build a growth engine, so to say. So yeah, that's kind of the content. So we have collective sessions, workshops. So again, experts in this. Also, there's the experts in pitching, fundraising, marketing, and sales. Growth. Most of them will have a sort of experience with working with Web3 startups. We have also had them in our previous program. You will also have one-on-one sessions with each of these mentors, so they can zoom in into your specific context and your specific challenges. So on a typical week, you would have 2 or 3 sessions like this, meet with 2 or 3 mentors like this, and have one-on-ones with them. Again, this is online on Zoom, so this basically means that you can participate from everywhere in the world. And then there's other formats as well, such as we have 2 sprint weeks. We have one product sprint week, and we have one market engineering sprint week, which is where we build your investment thesis towards storyline and thesis towards investors in real time. And yeah, this takes there's about 16 content weeks. So this means that the program runs in between 3 or 4 months. So most of this is online, but we also have 2 on-site weeks, which is where we will invite you to come together on a physical location with the rest of the founders. The reason for that is to build a culture together in the program. And it works way better to work together if we all know each other better and if we can relate to each other as human beings. The location for that is also not trivial. We will ask you to come together in Lisbon, which is the Web3 capital of Europe, which has a very thriving Web3 community. And there we will also put you on stage to pitch in front of the community, in front of the investors and other ecosystem players that are present there. That's kind of it. I think I covered most of it, Pedro. So Pedro himself is, for example, also heavily involved in the program as what we call an entrepreneur in residence, which is he will be following up with you regularly, and you can use him as a resource and as an expert for all kinds of questions, ranging from investor to Web3 thing, go to market, and probably a lot more than you can think of.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered the thing. It's something that should be taken as serious stuff, and if you'll get rewarded if you take it seriously and do what people suggest you to do or suggest you to try, because I think you'll actually come up a lot stronger at the end than what you got yourselves into the program in the beginning. So there's a ton of people which are involved in these things. Use them. They're there for you, and it's like resources. And get these people to work for you and within your best interests. Don't just do it like school or university or whatever, and just look at the calendar days, how long it takes till the end, and another day gone by. So that you can tick the box. That's not the right attitude. It's something that's in depth, and we're really convinced that it adds value to you.
So in the meantime, we've gotten 2 questions in the comments. One is from William, and he asks, we are going to launch our MVP mid-July. Should we start the procedure, so the application now, or wait until mid-July? So what I will say to that, William, is that once you submit the application, the next step is for us to invite you to a product demo where you can showcase the product. In that sense, as I understand it well, in terms of the way you put it as MVP, if you would apply now, we could not invite you to a product demo right away because you wouldn't have anything to show just yet. So I think there are 2 options. Either you wait with the application until you indeed have the MVP ready, so you can actually show us something in action. Or what you can also do is you can do the application now, but you can specify like, hey, we're not ready to do a product demo yet. And the platform that we use for the application, it has a communication feature, so you can file the application and then just communicate to us saying like, hey, we launched our MVP now and we can participate in a product demo. So I think those would be the 2 paths.
Uh,
Yeah.
I can add something to that as well. I mean, if you're launching in mid-July, maybe you don't have the whole shenanigan to show, but you're bound to have a significant portion of it. The dialogue and the conversation with us, it's going to take a little bit of time. Start early, and when you're ready, just say, "Hey, I'm ready," and we can then get on top of it.
One way of framing the application is that you are opening a relationship with us. So, and this is also something I mentioned before. Even if maybe you don't feel like you're ready just now yet, in terms of product, in terms of traction, to be a part of the program, is like you have nothing to lose. Just submit the application, you'll be in our database, and at that point, you can communicate with us all the time, and you can get feedback from us in the product demo. And so, in terms of like you only have something to gain in terms of future success of your startup. You're starting to build a network with investors and with guys who really knows what it takes to grow a company. So another question is from wants to comment. I'm not sure how to. Yeah. Anyway, the question is: I'm not incorporating a company with a cap table because I don't want to give preferential treatment to any investors. Are you buying liquid tokens, or do you need privileged treatment? I think maybe the bigger question kind of is like, this is a question that I'm kind of curious to ask you, Pedro, in a way. Is like, if I'm building a Web3 product, why should I go to traditional investment channels and raising from VCs, early stage investors, rather than launching a token and having financing the startup the Web3 way, so the Web3 native way, so to say.
I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but I think it's
This is kind of
valuable.
why I wanted to ask the question.
But I think it's valuable for you. I found myself some time ago in this very strange role of trying to explain to somebody that had already raised, I think it was 1.5 million, that this person should incorporate. Um, and and I was a little bit surprised that I had to go through this, but then on hindsight, I said, well, maybe this is something that we should do, is explain to people why they should incorporate, or why they should have some sort of legal dimension to their business. So I'm being completely agnostic here. I don't want to take the side of the Web3 decentralized sort of thing where there's no governments and libertarian and all of that. And I don't want to go to the other side as well, which is the highly regulated thing, government taxes, and all of that as well. So I'm going to be totally neutral. Um, the issue is that you need to live in this world. Okay, and that's a reality. I mean, you might not like it, you might like it, you might not like it 100%. I don't like it 100%, and that's absolutely fine. But I still need to deal with it. The question is the following, or the answer is the following. When people incorporate into companies, the main reason behind it, and that was the part that I was quite surprised to find out that it's not that well known. It's because it's something called liability. Okay, and what does this mean? If you fundraise from people, as in if people give you money and they don't give it to let's call it a regulated entity, then what basically that means is that you as a person with everything that you own are responsible for anything that goes wrong or goes right, with the money that people have given you. So if you lose the money, you answer with all your belongings in case somebody sues you and wins in a court of law, regardless of the jurisdiction. Okay, there's differences in between jurisdictions, but I don't want to go there. But if you do not have an entity, a legal entity, and have incorporated, and usually these entities have something like LLC in their names. LLC, which is one type, it actually stands for limited liability company. What you're actually doing is saying this vehicle or this entity or this company is responsible for whatever happens up to this point. Okay, so imagine that you fundraise a million, half a million, 100K, $1, €1, whatever it is. I mean, that's the extent to which you're going to be responsible before the law and before other people for whatever happens. So it's an incredibly good idea to have some sort of legal entity that incorporates this concept of limited liability and actually lets you operate. Okay, there's other practical stuff when you operate a company, which is you get money and you have expenses. So you make money on one side and you have expenses, and you're supposed to pay taxes on one minus the other. And there's quite a few things that need to happen. For example, in terms of costs, to recognize costs as a tax expense. And you can only do that if you've actually incorporated and you are a normal slash regular company within the system. Okay, so it's a damn good idea to incorporate it. There's a ton of ways that you could do this. Eventually, you could go as far as putting together a DAO, but there needs to be some legal entity before the jurisdiction where you choose to be that sort of takes care and of the responsibility of what is happening and acts as a sort of an umbrella for the activity that you're doing. So it's not a good idea to say we don't exist, we just exist on the metaverse or something like that, because you will run into problems sooner or later. Okay. Um,
So
there's
he has been commenting back a little bit, so maybe we can.
to say the protocol is testing itself. It's fine.
You can. Okay.
Yeah, the product it's fine. I mean, you're taking no money. Yeah, but there will come a time where you will need to cross a bridge, even if it's a little bridge somewhere, which will put you under the light of the existing system where we live in. Okay, and you will need to make sure that the thing complies to at least the bare minimum, uh, so that it's actually investable. This is another dimension that I want to go through very, very quickly. We, as a fund manager, have a mandate. So we raise money from other people, which are called the LPs or the limited partners. And these people give us money, not just like, oh, here's my check, go and do whatever you want. No, there's a contract, there's an explicit contract around those things. So we get money and we invest it according to certain principles and certain conditions. And if we don't do our jobs, we're going to go to jail because people have given us money. We have promised to do something, and we're not doing what we promised these people to do. So that's fraud. And very quickly, we end up in jail. So if we do not have the mandate, it's called the mandate, to invest in something like tokens out of the thin air, we cannot invest in tokens out of the thin air. Neither us nor anybody that does not have the mandate. Okay, and that there are not that many vehicles around that actually just accept investing in tokens. And even when they do, there's always some sort of regulation hanging above their heads. So be very careful on how you put yourself, because if you're uninvestable or you have a cap table which is really weird and that makes you uninvestable, nobody's going to touch you. It's like having the plague. And that's something that we've seen that actually kills a lot of startups because people in the beginning, either they don't know or they don't care or they don't pay attention or they don't put the time to get informed on what should happen. And then you make the thing totally uninvestable and it dies there. Even if
Pedro, as a
idea.
Web3 investor, have you had this before? Certain
Oh, yeah.
projects that were basically uninvestable because they didn't have the required legal structures or were not really willing
Yes.
to comply in this sort of like make themselves investable by providing a structure through which you would be able
Yeah,
to.
yeah. For sure. There's a lot of that stuff around, and I've invested in tokens as well. So you can also do it, not go for the equity. I don't want to go into the conversation of should we do equity, should we do tokens.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a 2-hour session. Like, this is, I think it's a very interesting question. I think it's a very interesting question. I think we also need to be a little bit careful not to go into it too deeply.
This could be a 20-hour session easily. But what I'm telling you is there needs to be some sort of order and method to the madness. Otherwise, it's not because people don't think that the project is good enough, or they, it's not because people don't think that you're scammers or whatever, but it could be because simply there's no way of making this work.
I think it's a very interesting, like, this guy. We're kind of in the middle, right? Because it's like there's still the centralized investors and people owning companies, and then you have the whole decentralization idea. And this is also why it's interesting now that a lot of funds are being tokenized, and that people can just invest in funds through smart contracts, and then you kind of have a bridge or a hybrid of the two models. So again, I think this could be a very long session. I see that the commenter has been following with attention, and he thanks us for our answer. So I think we did a good job at kind of framing it.
He's making some value
It.
points about maybe in the future there will be no companies. Yeah, but
but that's what I mean. We're kind of in the middle, right? It's a transition thing. The thing is, as you pointed out pretty correctly, we still live in an existing world with a lot of structures, and by not having this sort of legal structure, you automatically make it impossible to be invested by a lot of people who want to invest in you, who you maybe want to invest in you in terms of, like, there are people with a lot of experience who could also mentor and guide you and connect you to other people. So I think right now for a lot of Web3 companies, the answer is probably an and thing. So you can have tokens, you can be the decentralized, and you can have raise funds through tokens from communities and from people who want to stay anonymous and do it this kind of way. But it would be, I think, the smartest way to be opportunistic and also still have a legal structure where more traditional investors and who want to stay within the existing legal financial system and structures can also still fund you.
Yeah.
So another question we have is going a little bit back to maybe the accelerator point or the context. Our Web3 project operates on the Ton blockchain. Does it fit the Web3 accelerator? So the short answer to that is yes, absolutely. And Pedro is a big fan of the Ton blockchain, actually. So before we get into the Ton blockchain, anything Web3, I mean, it doesn't even have to particularly be on a blockchain. For example, we also had projects, if you have a very good, let's say, product that is built for crypto marketing, it doesn't really have to be on. It can also be a SaaS model. It's just like if you're building within the Web3 space, if you're selling to Web3 customers, any sort of adjacent complicit value that you create within the ecosystem for people creating value in the ecosystem, businesses creating value in the ecosystem, because we do prefer B2B. But yeah, the Ton blockchain, one of the more exciting prospects, I think, or perspectives in the, can we call it a new bull cycle already, or are we still impatiently waiting for it really to kick out? It's a side question.
I think we can call it bull right now.
Pre-bull?
No, it's already bull. I mean, there's another important question in the forum. Do we need traction or ongoing sales? We're working on our first customer to release the first product in October. So
yeah, it's William is the same guy or same founder who was saying about his MVP mid-July. And I think this goes a bit into the, okay, what about traction? And again, like, we prefer for you to have traction. Like, if you have 1 or 2 paying clients, that's the best sign you have a product market fit. Even if you have one, then it will be like, how many other customers like this one that is paying you are there in the market, and can you come up with a go-to-market strategy on, like, scaling your product market? Just find more customers than the one that is paying you. If you are not there yet, then basically everything that can serve as a proxy for product market fit is something that is worth mentioning on your application. So this is exactly, you're working with your first customer, you have pilots, you have LOIs, you have testers, maybe you've won grants from, like, there's a lot of nonprofit foundations. For example, I was talking to a founder earlier today who won 2 grants from the Near Foundation. To be very clear, this is not what we mean exactly by traction, but if you are pre-revenue, this is very worth mentioning. Everything that helps us assess how close you are to assess the value that you are about to create in the market, that you are still working to create on the market, and you haven't launched it yet, but everything that kind of feeds into that.
I wanna also highlight something which I think is sort of implicit in William's question. Simple traction or ongoing sales. So this is the always eternal difference in between recurring revenue and non-recurring revenue. So everybody loves recurring revenue. And what does it mean, recurring revenue? Recurring revenue is rent. Okay, so time passes and you get money. So you're providing a product or a service to somebody. You can either do a one-off purchase, or the customer might do a one-off purchase. They come to you, they buy the product. You give them the product, they give you the money. Bye bye. That's over and done. Or you can have sort of a long-term relationship with these people where you collect rent as time passes. Everybody loves collecting rents. Why? Because after you do the sale, if it's a one-shot thing, you're gonna lose contact with that customer. And believe me when I tell you that the most likely people to buy from you are people that have already bought from you and liked the experience. So if you're doing one-shot things, you're like going through all the motion of the sales cycle, always, always, always. You start the year from zero. You start the month from zero. You start the week from zero sales and zero revenue. And that's usually a lot more difficult than just investing on setting up an ongoing and long-term relationship with your customers and then letting time go by, and then you just collect rent. Okay, so it has another thing that investors love, which is predictability. In that sense, we look at stuff, and unless that there's churn or people leave or you misbehave or whatever, then you're collecting rent. As long as you don't screw it, you're fine, and you're building on top of stuff. So if you can, there are some exceptions to what I'm going to say. Uh, Everything's always relative, but if you can, do collect rent because it helps your case and it contributes to your peace of mind.
I am going to be a little bit selfish, Pedro, and ask you about why are you so excited about the Ton blockchain? But let's not make it too long because we have other
Okay,
good
okay.
questions. But
Another 20-hour thing. Uh,
the
Look,
2 minute version.
short and sweet. Look at what's happening in China and the concept of super apps, where basically you live inside an app. You communicate, you message, you get news.
Maybe just before. So the Ton blockchain is the blockchain launched by Telegram. So
Yeah,
in-app payments. So Telegram, obviously, a huge direct messaging app, and now it also has in-app natively integrated blockchain on-chain payments with their own token.
yeah. So China in this particular is well ahead of the Western world with things like WeChat and that type of thing. And basically, there's people that simply live inside um, WeChat or whatever it is. So there's always been this strange unicorn that people in the Western world have been after, which is, where's my super app that lets me live inside it and then do stuff for a community of users, which is incredibly big. And usually it's sort of common sense to go and try and find it within the messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, uh, Facebook's or Meta's Messenger, I should say, and whatever. And when you look at the landscape, Telegram with around 900 million monthly active users and the type of developments that they've been doing in the past couple of years, it's an incredible candidate for taking the Western world as the super app. And there's a lot of stuff going in there in terms of how people build apps, in terms of how people pay. The internet today would be a very different place if the first version of the Netscape browser had a payments button somewhere on the toolbar. So that's why I'm really interested in the space.
Yeah, so if you're building a startup on a Tom blockchain, obviously you're a candidate for the program, but we're even particularly excited about the Tom blockchain. So we have a next question, which is Pedro, but also to me, what has been your biggest highlight from working with the Web3 founders in the first cohort?
You take it first.
I have to take it first. Honestly, it's kind of hard to think in terms of highlights, and because um, what makes the experience really special and meaningful for me is that you meet these people at first on a product demo. So after you submit the application as a founder, you'll be invited to the product demo, and then there you're pitching there, you're showing your product on a Zoom call with a screen share, sometimes even from your mobile phone with 10 other founders. And then from there on, we select the best ones, and then there's a process. So I have my first calls with them. I get to know these people, who they are, what they're doing, where they're coming from. And the reason why they did this, the reason why founders built a startup is usually a very interesting story. It tells a lot about themselves, and then they are putting their whole being and their whole life in this startup. So it's a special human relationship. And then, yeah, it's hard for me to think in sort of highlights, because then you get them into the program and I work with them every week, and we work on the business goals. I work also with the investors of the fund to align and to hold them accountable to the goals that we have set forward all together. And then by the end of the program, there is graduation day, where they pitch in front of an audience and they report on the progress they have made on those 4 months. And if I would have to say a highlight, it's just by the time you get to that point of the graduation and the progress they have made, and they're pitching it as a bunch of numbers, like we grew our sales from this to this, we shipped these product features, we have now gotten our first customers in this new market. And they're just like numbers, and the pitch is 3 minutes. But for me, when I then listen to that, it's like the whole story of me working together from the very first time I saw the product demo up and through all of those months, all of those sessions, all of the one-on-ones I had with them. So yeah, I guess the highlight, and this is probably the cliche, is the graduation. But just because of it, it kind of wraps up. It's just a 3-minute pitch, but everything is kind of in there. And just to say that, like, yes, it's about growth, and it's about numbers, and it's about revenue, and it's about sales, and there's an investment, and the idea is that as a fund we get ROI on the investment. But it's also for me, it's a wonderful time to spend my it's a wonderful way to spend my time, because I'm helping people building their dreams, and we are also creating value in a market for customers. In a way, this is why I love the Web3 vertical. I'm very excited about the new decentral ethos that is behind all of it, and I think it has the potential to transform a lot of industries in a good way.
I'll
Can
sum
you
it up.
top that, Pedro?
I'll sum it up short and sweet. It's like taking your child to kindergarten on the first day by the hands, and then suddenly you're at graduation day after they complete university, and you've seen that they've actually gone through a path, which is a long path, and it's not a linear path. And they've actually made it through that period, and they came out at the end a lot different than what they were in the very early days, or the very beginning of the thing. So it's all about the progress. It's all about how the thought process that is behind that progress, how they have evolved. And I'll throw in a little bit on the selfish side. So for me, it's like a proxy way to actually test hypotheses and businesses, because I would not have the time to do them all within my lifespan. So yeah, this thing comes up. Okay, fantastic. This might actually work. Now you go and chase it, and then you get to see how the thing evolved. And I was right, I was wrong. I learned this, I learned that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the path.
Yeah, So we have a new question, which I think is, I mean, it's not really a question, but I think it's good to address. So Nick, who was previously introduced himself as the founder of a project on the Ton blockchain, he points out that he has a B2C B2B hybrid model, and that they will apply. He will apply, and he says, despite of the B2B accelerator focus, and I just want to speak to that in a sense that yes, we have a B2B, we have a strong B2B focus. One of the reasons is also because as wise guys, we are very good at coaching you on business development and sales and scaling sales and doing it internationally, all those kind of things. Whereas B2C, let's say, yeah, if in the most extreme example, for example, if your social media platform, it's a completely different growth model. We are not necessarily the best at helping you with that. But of course, like in Web3, it's a lot about users and communities, so you will have a lot of hybrid models. But if you have a model where you have B2C users, for example, but in that way you can create value for businesses, I mean, this can totally work as well. If in your model you have to have B2B customers, you need to sell to companies, and preferably this is what we're really good at, to really big buyer companies. I would heavily invite you to apply. Like a lot of models these days are marketplaces. They are connecting different sites. They are creating value by serving a certain customer segment in a certain market that they then sell to businesses. So there are, yeah, hybrid is no. I would definitely. I wouldn't even say that the word despite. I understand why you put it there, because we do promote ourselves as a B2B, but I would definitely invite you to apply.
Yeah, for sure.
Any thoughts there, Pedro, on B2B versus B2C? I
Now,
remember actually I was talking to Pedro about our investment thesis or our selection criteria, and I remember him saying verbatim something like, "We are okay with B2C or B2C to B if they have high leverage in the market." So I guess this is the point: if you're connecting consumers with businesses somehow, if you can have leverage in one of the two markets, then yeah. But this is kind of essential to how your business model is supposed to work from there on out.
yeah, don't make it too complicated. If it's too complicated, usually it requires a lot of moving parts. But if it works, I mean, I'm happy to look at it.
So we do not have any more questions in the comments. I'm just looking here something else. What is?
Do we need to cover anything else?
Maybe we can speak a little bit to why Lisbon is such a great place to have this as a home for the program.
That's a really quick one, because it is, guys. And
because you can surf there, and because
yeah,
the food is really good, and because there's a lot of sun.
and
And this is a
if you don't know, you need to come and find out the why. But I'll elaborate a little bit. For whatever strange reason, Lisbon and Portugal sort of got in fashion some time ago. Uh, People like to say, no, it's the sun, it's the surf, it's the wine, it's the food, it's the people, it's this and that, and so on and so forth. Well, I think it's everything, to be honest with you. So it's the whole pack of stuff. I mean, it's not 100% on all criteria. Of course, it's not. No such thing exists on the planet. But all in all, it's a very decent value proposition that when you compare it to other places, it really stands out as a very nice place to grow and to work and to have a family and all of that. Again, for whatever strange reason, I mean, there's other cities in the world that have poured millions or billions of dollars into trying to sort of uh, come up with a similar thing and have not achieved that holy grail yet. Again, Lisbon, for whatever strange reason, it's on the map and keeps on attracting people, and this then turns into a critical mass and network effect type of business model, if you will. And then there's a ton of people that attract a ton of people, and that in turn
yeah.
attract more people. So it's really one of the best places to be if you're into Web3. There's been a little bit of love by the institutions as well. There's the Web3 Hub, which is
Recently launched.
yeah, exactly.
So the
Just
Web3 Hub is a quarter in Lisbon that is fully dedicated to the Web3 community with event venues, with co-working spaces, and obviously it's not so much about these actual spaces or that infrastructure, but about the people that are there and that are attracted there. I would
I
say
think,
just in terms of Lisbon is kind of the way I look at it, and this is just one way of explaining the story, is like after COVID, it became very popular to have remote teams. So the idea that and this is not just crypto, but it's kind of funny because crypto is like the embodies the ethos of decentralization in all sorts of way in the most specific way. So in people in tech and software, it became very popular to start working from wherever. It's like the only sort of limitation is okay if there's a 10-hour difference, it becomes sort of difficult, but other than that you can be pretty much in whatever place. So then in spite of the fact that you can work from anywhere, a lot of people went to Lisbon. So instead of the decentralized kind of way of working, remote working, all of the remote workers centralized in Lisbon, and this is for a very 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 good reason. And yeah, Web3 most of all is the space where this is the ethos, and they somehow all group together in Lisbon. At least in Europe, it's definitely the place with the highest concentration of crypto and Web3 people. So that's why we have the program there, and we invite all the founders there. Beginning of the program to get to know each other, and at the end of the program to conclude it in a yeah, with a bang, so to say. We run events there for the community, so you can meet up with a lot of other people and pitch in front of the local for the investors in the ecosystem there. Maybe one question we didn't address, Pedro, is like how many teams are we actually looking for?
I don't think there's a hard number. I mean, we can go as
The
high
more
as
the merrier.
it's not like we're gonna have 120, but I would say that 10 or 12 is probably a good number. But
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it as in yeah we need to get 10 or we need to get 15 or whatever. We need to get whatever we need to get that makes sense and are decent investments and decent startups. So that's how I would answer that one.
I think this can be maybe the final question. Is I'm also just personally interested. So again, you could say this is kind of a selfish question. What sort of, let's say, value categories are you most excited about coming up in the Web3 space? For example, you have things like real world asset tokenization, um, DPIN, which I see a lot. And if you don't know, it is decentralized physical infrastructure network, which is a mouthful. And maybe it's not super intuitive of what it is, but yeah, what are you most? I'm also verification of ID.
Mhm.
For example, how long do you think it will take before the first country is going to register political votes on a blockchain?
I don't
I
think
mean, I think I maybe I asked them somewhat too many questions at once. So the first initial question one, as an investor, and I would also say as a user, what are like the new sort of applications
okay. So
that you're most excited about that Web3 can kind of, or the Web3 sort of technology can transform in a good way,
okay.
in a way that is better than before?
So here's the thing. Your job as a startup founder, and I'm going to use a hockey metaphor. You skate to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is. Okay. So you want to be in a place that's going to be really hot when you have a product and when you're selling and when you're ready to take on the market. And what you need to do is get your little crystal balls out, look into them and see what sort of near future is bringing to us. And that's not a very difficult exercise. You can check all the analyst reports about trends and stuff and what's coming and what's going. But you basically put the finger on the ones that I think are the most promising ones. Real world asset tokenization, obviously, everything's going to be in the blockchain sooner or later. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you're moving around that space, yeah, but be careful because if you're just another one or a copycat, there's no value in that. So anything that has to do with real world asset tokenization for sure. Deepin is highly interesting because it sort of takes care of the gap in between the physical reality and the non-physical reality that we need, because at the end of the day we're not yet on the matrix, and we need to live in both worlds. So Deepin is, I think it's going to be really big, and when you apply the type of business models that you can apply to this area, a lot of stuff is going to be turned upside down. Um, I still like to see things in the financial world. Let's put it like that. I'm not going to say DeFi, because there will always be somebody who will come up with a synthetic which is made out of options, of binaries, of futures, of what I mean. It's difficult constructs, and I don't think the world is ready for so much complexity. But there's definitely a nice space where you can disintermediate the current status quos, aka banks, and make sure that people live happily ever after. Another part which I'm thinking that's going to explode is going to be healthcare and that type of thing.
Like healthcare data.
Yeah, that healthcare data for sure. I think it's not as clear as some of the other areas that I've mentioned, but I think it's definitely going to be an interesting area. The healthcare segment is huge, 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 and there's a ton of appetite to sort of turn it upside down and make it more user friendly. Um,
I
there's
think user friendly is a very big word as well, because we can talk about all of the new categories that we are excited about, but what is still a very big problem in terms of unlocking a Web3 world, or gaining access to, let's say, mainstream, bigger scale audiences or of customers, is a lot of Web3 products are still extremely unintuitive to regular users. And they are like, they have a sort of bias also against crypto because of all the bad headlines, which are about everything but the value it can create. And they're just not very usable products. So even you can even do like compete in a market that is seemingly already a red ocean by just doing the UX and the whole user experience, simplifying everything and making everything way more intuitive.
If you've got something new to show in terms of user experience, please do enroll. I want to
Even
see.
if you wanna do the 1 millionth wallet, if it's way better in terms of user experience, and if you can put it in Pedro's hands and he's like, yes, I will use this, then you have something for sure.
A little bit of curiosity. I changed wallets not very long ago because I found one that was a lot better than the one that I used to use, which was
Do you
very.
want to do you want to shill it?
I can Rabbi,
The Rabbi. I'm still a Rainbow user.
but I mean, it
I mean,
works
what
not
did you come from? MetaMask?
MetaMask. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the worst in the world. I mean, it's not.
it is, but that was what was there in the beginning, and that's sort of the de facto standard, and
Yeah, it is the implied standard, not the official standard. Yeah, I've been a Rainbow user for 1.5 years now, but I also have heard great things about Rabbi,
it
or
works. It's
Rabbi,
Rabbi. I think they call it
but it's
Rabbi.
a rabbit, no? So I would
Yeah, it
say
is. It
Rabbi.
is. It is. It is, but it's nice. It has a rabbit in there. There's no. It's not a fox as in MetaMask.
Pick your animal.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
guys, if you can have a wallet with a more interesting animal, I guess. No, so yeah,
Unicorn.
UX is still very big.
One that's really nice from the UI point of view is the, I can't remember what's the name of it. It's the wallet from Uniswap.
Hmm, I haven't used it.
Yeah, from the UI perspective, it's really nice, but it lags on functionality. And I'm sure that there's other stuff around that's good.
So, in your what you were saying there, I heard something like everything is going to be on the blockchain eventually. So, you think this is where it's going?
Yeah, I mean, you can find a pretty decent use case without sweating too much for at least 90% of the stuff that's floating around that needs a single source of truth and transparency
The way
and
I always put it to people is, this is the like on blockchain money and in smart contracts is the first way, the only way ever that we have to program what money is going to do. Like the yes money, we have a lot of fintech apps, and of course we have our banking apps and all that, but basically it's just statements, it's just basically spreadsheets databases that communicate with each other, and there always needs to be some sort of approval going here and there, and there's no way to automate or program it in really interesting ways. That I think is enough of a case. And then
Yeah. Yeah, just I think it was end of last week. Somebody came up to me and with this thing, and they wanted a loan. Sorry, they wanted a loan, and as collateral, they were willing to put up collateralized real world asset house and some Bitcoin, which was a very decent example of where the puck is skating to.
yeah. And then we have the whole AI revolution. So if everything is going to be, if all of our digital worlds and all of the services are going to be robots, shouldn't they be using digitally programmable money? Probably yes.
Oh, that's a good thing. Please don't just use AI as a selling point. It's a little bit demo day, if you know the word, meaning everybody's using it, and it's like creating more adverse reactions on the other
So
side.
when can they use it? Because I mean, it's
They
kind of
can
inevitable that we will have.
every look. AI is going to be in everything that we do, and it's going to be ubiquitous, and it's going to be invisible. So you're just going to expect that the car is going to come to you when you want to use it, or that the phone is going to do whatever it is that it's supposed to do that you want it to do, without being prompted by the owner. So it's going to be in everything. I mean, if you don't use AI with your product, there's something wrong with you. Even if it's just using ChatGPT to tune your value proposition, or to write your emails to customers, or whatever it is. But don't just come up and say, my biggest selling point is that I'm using AI. AI has been around for like more than 70 years.
All right. We've had no more questions coming in the comments. I think we had a good run as well. I would just say to conclude, if you have any questions. So also, this is also for people who are watching the recording. If you have any questions left, I would say feel free to connect with both Pedro and myself here on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us via direct message here on LinkedIn. And yeah, I will also post again the link to the landing page for the applications, where you can find most of the details. And if you're on the fence, if you're doubting whether you should apply or not, I will say rule of thumb, you probably should. There's really nothing to lose. The worst thing that can happen is that we invite you to a product demo and we give you some feedback that helps you make your product better. But we will give you our full consideration and attention, and we will be very honest in our feedback, which can only be helpful in your way forward. Any closing words from you, Pedro?
Hit the link.
Hit the link.
And do it. Just do it.
All right, guys, looking forward to your application. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.